all of us. These will be in place for the next 2 weeks, and we will possibly. I want to be clear that not all parking enforcement in Los Angeles is stopping, but we will focus our enforcement in places that basic operations that prioritize our health and our safety. So for the duration of this emergency period, parking enforcement will focus on street sweeping around encampments, ensuring emergency access, keeping colored curbs clear, and repaving and slurry operations. So we want to continue to make sure that our public health needs that street sweep. Taken together, these temporary closures and restrictions announced last night will prevent large gatherings and strengthen our work to slow the spread of COVID-19. But I also want to reassure Angelenos about their public safety during this crisis. Crime is down this year, in the past week down even further. That said, Chief Moore and I had discussions, and Chief Moore has asked half of our detectives to go now and work on the streets of Los Angeles to help supplement our patrol officers. 50% of those detectives are now out on this closed. And a change in routine like this can be very confusing for both the children and parents. And it puts a strain on our families, our teachers, and our communities. And I want to thank all the LAUSD employees who have stepped up to volunteer to help. And I know the district will be announcing more about that tonight. But we're working to make sure the whole family is taken care of during this crisis. We understand that earlier today that we learned that LA clarified their plan around the 60 grab-and-go centers for meals to make sure children can continue to get the nutrition upon which they rely each month. We hear you, we see you, and we are here for you. That's why last night, and I wanted to reiterate this today, we ordered a moratorium on evictions of residential tenants during this local emergency for people unable to pay rent as a result of this health crisis. I also want to reiterate and remind people that no water, power, or gas will be cut off for you during this period. No one will be evicted and rents can be deferred. There's been also a tremendous amount of disinformation to inform those decisions, so there will be no surprises. But I can certainly tell you, and I think many of you have checked this online, that those rumors about a national lockdown are not true today. And that's important for all of us to push back the misinformation, the fraud that many people are trying to exercise, financial fraud, testing fraud, and other things. As always, please check with official sources, lacity.org, lacounty.gov, of course, state website at ca.gov, and our state and our governor to ensure that we have more tests, more testing labs, and more testing capability. That is arriving more every day and in the coming weeks. In the meantime, though, people are saying, I have symptoms, what should I do, and why can't I get a test? Those tests and the lab capacity to process them is being focused on 3 sets of individuals. First, our healthcare workers and first responders who are at greatest risk, and we need to be out there in the field to help us with this crisis. Second, those who are the most vulnerable, our seniors in those days and certainly in the week ahead. On food distribution, I hope some of you joined us earlier today as I joined together with the heads of our grocery chains in a supply center. It was in Paramount, where we saw the actual evidence of all the food that is there, and to encourage people to not panic buy and not to hoard. That panic buying and hoarding comes at an expense. Those who need food are not getting it, and it is causing our workers that are out there in our grocery stores to be under higher risk. Immunity and your behavior can cost someone their life. Finally, as we undertake efforts to slow the spread of this virus, I've heard from Angelenos who are eager to help, to do what we always do, reach out a helping hand to neighbors and folks around. You don't have to wait for any official government instructions. Certainly check on seniors you know who live in your building or your neighborhood. See if you can help them get food if they're unable to go out or they're self-isolating. And look for those folks who are the most vulnerable, for people who are quarantined. I encourage you again to give what you can. And you can go to this fund at coronavirus.lacity.org. That's coronavirus.lacity.org. We raised tens of thousands of dollars in the first day. We want to continue that money coming if you have the means to do that. And we will make sure that money gets to the people that need it most and for the effort that our frontline workers need for equipment and other things. We've seen the leadership of our philanthropic community and the general. well-informed, and effective in slowing the spread of COVID-19. As individuals, as communities, as a city, everybody's doing their part. And thank you from the bottom of my heart for your courage in these tough days. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for your loving of your fellow Angelenos during these tough days. We can and we will stop the spread of COVID-19 in Los Angeles. And while we have still challenging days ahead of us, I believe more, well, in Spanish. We'll take questions.
Thank you, sir. If you would like to ask a question, please signal by pressing *1 on your telephone keypad. And our first question comes from John Ricardi with the Los Angeles Magazine.
Hi, John.
Mayor, hello, Mayor. Regarding the closure of bars and restaurants and the restaurants doing takeout, et cetera, that you mentioned yesterday, are there any protocols for enforcement that is being followed? Essentially, who is being sure that what you've put in the emergency order is taking place?
It's a good question about the enforcement, and we have BP who can literally cut off the water and power of a business if they are in violation of that. But we've had a great response so far, and we do not see, just anecdotally, so far anybody who's been violating that. Where we find those, we'll be happy to sit down with them, educate them, give them plenty of warning. We don't want this to be something where we bring down a heavy arm right away in a punitive way that lands people in jail. We just want people to do the right things and close those institutions.
Thank you, sir. Again, that is *1 to ask a question. Next, we have Matthew.
Absolutely, and thank you for the question. The city and the county of Los Angeles are already well practiced in this. We all the time give vouchers to folks to go into motels and hotels as they have even greater, lower rates of occupancy during this crisis. We see tremendous opportunities and really welcome the state who stepped up in a big way to help negotiate some of those, and we hope help fund some of them. We see a real opportunity to be able to have places where people can self-isolate if they have symptoms, if they're homeless. As many people have so articulately said, some people don't as many of those as possible, and we welcome the state in helping us. It's a great idea. It builds on something we already do. And finally, where it's been tougher to master lease a motel in the past, we may see opportunities to take over the entire motel in some cases because occupancy is so low, help save that business, and do what's right for our homeless neighbors.
Thank you, sir. Again, that is *1 to ask a question. Next, we have Najee Ali with Wave Newspaper.
Mr. Mayor, thank you, sir, for your leadership. And
out there looting, that seems to be something that's an answer for a different sort of emergency. And it's less that people can't move at nighttime than where they were going that we needed to stop. And that's why we had to make the difficult decision with movie theaters, nightclubs, entertainment venues, our bars, and of course dining in to shut those down, both in the daytime and at nighttime. So at present, absolutely not. I would only consider that if there's some sort of threats to public safety or if public health officials who have not given me any indications that that is something they recommend.
Some of the temporary measures that might be taken to house the homeless could somehow turn into a longer-term fix or add to the solution for dealing with LA's homeless problem.
Absolutely. I've said never let a crisis go to waste. And we've been begging Washington for more money. We've been negotiating with Sacramento, who stepped up with more, but we've asked for even more than that. And whatever resources we get in at this moment to deal with this corona into rec centers and other places as that funding comes forward, we would love to have an exit strategy. It's too early for that because it's a huge logistical undertaking to get them indoors first, but that would be my ideal, and my strong message to both Sacramento and Washington is let's not just plan for the next couple of weeks, let's plan for the next couple of years and see if this is one of the things that can help us turn the tide. We're housing almost double the number of people that we were each day as 4 years ago. 133 people in LA County a day are being housed.
Thank you. Again, that is *1 to ask a question. Next, we have David John Anger with Los Angeles Times.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you great. Go ahead.
Great. I was wanting to ask about the large number of city workers who are still going into work and whether there are any concerns about that conflicting with the social distancing policy. You know, many of the buildings that they go to work in, the only way to get to their office is in elevators, and if you've been in the elevators at City Hall and City Hall East and many of the other buildings like Figueroa Plaza.
Flip from what we have today, which is there are certain folks who have to care for family members, might feel sick themselves, and telecommute if it's possible, to something different, which will be telecommute unless you can't, or you're a critical city employee. That, I think, will address that. We'll have many more city employees that won't be in those city work environments, where we are practicing that spacing in their workplaces. Won't even have those momentary interactions as well. So we'll have guidance out on that tomorrow. I know that's something that the County of Los Angeles also put out some guidance on today, further and look at what additional steps we can do to allow folks to telecommute and to insist that they do unless they're non-critical.
Thank you, sir. Again, that is star 1 to ask a question. And next we have Sandra O'Neill with Telemundo 52.
Hi, Mr. Mayor. How are you?
Good. How you doing?
For having this conference. I'm great. Thank you so much.
Of course.
We do want to ask about, I know yesterday you announced a moratorium on evictions,
Yeah.
and I know you said later you will give more details on loans for small businesses.
Yes.
Is this
Right away. And so we're going to try to match, as we did after the financial crisis in 2008, through our city workforce centers, those folks who are displaced with those folks that need workers. Second, we hope that the Congress will pass soon the assistance for workers. If it mirrors some of the things we saw in 2008 and 2009, that will give us even more ability to directly give grants to workers who are displaced or who have shortened hours. Third, we are looking at ways that we can help employers directly, which helps employees, early as this week, but certainly by the beginning of next week, and together with the United Way, California Community Foundation, and others, to pool those resources to help workers now. So, of course, we're helping on the rent side with no evictions, helping on the utility side with making sure that water and power isn't cut off, but we hope to be able to have some cash assistance as well. One final note, the mayors of California have been pressing for state action in this area. One great idea from the mayor of Stockton, California, was folks who earned their earned income tax credit, taking Spanish questions as well. But I want to make sure that for those of you who are with the Spanish media and for our residents, that they have this information as well. So to folks who are logging out, thank you again for tuning in. We'll be doing this each and every day, and we'll be bringing to this, with the proper, of course, social distancing, other mayors, some council leadership, supervisors, and others throughout the week so that you can see and hear what some of them are doing. But we appreciate you, your strength, and your love during this time. So en español, yo quiero decir unas palabras de junio. Le he pedido a nuestro departamento de policía que ayude a apoyar a empresarios con cumplir con la orden de emergencia para los cierres y restricciones para empresas. Hoy también fue el primer día en que nuestras escuelas del Distrito Escolar Unificado de Los Ángeles fueron cerradas. Empezando el miércoles, el Distrito Escolar Unificado de Los Ángeles abrirá 60 centros en escuelas del distrito que quieren ayudar. Y hemos establecido el Fondo de Los Ángeles para la crisis de COVID-19. Les alento que den lo que pueden a este fondo a lamayorsfund.org/COVID-19. También hemos nombrado a Matt Johnson, el expresidente de la Comisión de Policía, para servir como nuestro jefe de respuesta a los en gobierno. Estos son tiempos muy, muy difíciles, pero estamos y somos fuertes juntos. Y cada día yo puedo ver actos de amistad, actos de amor, y Los Ángeles continuará como una ciudad de mucho, mucho apoyo, ayuda y esperanza. Este es